Hey, it's Dr. David here. Welcome to the channel. Today I've got a special guest with you who is an expert on body and mind connection. And specifically, she's going to be talking about headaches today. So if you've got headache problems, you don't want to miss this. She is the author of this book, Simple Healing: 5 Steps to Heal the Body and Soul, a new philosophy of healing pain and stress with quick actions you can take in your own home. Guys, I introduce to you Dorothy McGuinness. Here she is. Hey, Dorothy.
Hey, Dr. David, how are you doing?
Doing wonderful. Thanks for coming on the show today. I appreciate you.
My
Let me just
pleasure.
tell a bit more about you. You're the owner of Simple Healing Physical Therapy out in Scottsdale, Arizona. So if any of you guys out there watching are in Scottsdale, in the Phoenix, Scottsdale area, you might want to knock on Dorothy's door if you're dealing with issues that she can help you out with. So I'm so excited to bring you on the show today. I want to get to know you and your book a bit more and share some tips. So thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having me.
So what got you interested in this mind-soul connection? Because I read this book. It's fantastic. And we were just chatting a bit before we got on here about how this is like not at all what you think about when it comes to physical therapy, but so immensely related because I mean, it goes into the emotion. I love the chapter on dreams and symbolism, and like there's practical tips and there, physical tips, but there's so many other things that you think about that are just not your normal thing. So what got you into this?
Right. Well, David, I think outside the box in a lot of ways. But in school, I went to Northern Arizona University and we had to do a research project, and I decided to do mine on manual pressure on acupuncture points to release tension headaches. And I went big science on it. You know, I had a biofeedback machine, and luckily it was like during finals. So I had a lot of people that would work with me, and I set them all up, and I did the biofeedback, and then I did the releases, and then I did the biofeedback again. And they all showed improvement. And I was like, wow, you know, here we have cultures that exist right now that have ways to get rid of pain that we're totally ignoring. So, I mean, it even took like 3 or 4 months for the Board of Regents to approve my project. And everyone got better. Absolutely everyone, even during finals week. So I was hooked on trying to use alternative methods for pain, right from the start of PT school.
Well, that's awesome. That's so cool. I never got to do any cool experiments like that, and then to show that kind of improvement, that's phenomenal.
Yeah.
So what led you to write the book here, Simple Healing?
Okay, so that's also a progression, because what happened was once I got that in PT school, I actually moved to Saudi Arabia to work right out of college. And I started learning about other cultures. So I learned about, of course, the Middle East, but there were also nurses from the Philippines, and there were people from Egypt and England and Australia. So I started to collect a lot of different methods to help people heal that were easy and simple and not so painful. And then when I came back home, I started getting into myofascial release, cranial sacral therapy, medical qigong, which is Chinese natural healing. And I learned as I was doing this that more people, so I'm still doing orthopedic patients, right? But so many people were not taking care of themselves as a whole. So they weren't getting better because they weren't addressing the stress in their life. They weren't addressing the tension in their life. They had people that were angry at them, and they'd get more headaches and more back pain. And I was like, wow, we really have to look at this not just from a physical point of view. And even back then, they were like, just work on the back, don't work on the rest of the body. So we were expanding, working on more parts of the body to relieve the pain, but we weren't necessarily expanding to work on the psyche, you know, how if people could feel good about themselves. So I started understanding that the more I really listened to the patient, because people were trying to get them through really fast, I listened to them, then they set a plan better. And once they set the plan, they followed it through. And they followed it through, they were very successful getting rid of their pain. So then I noticed that with insurances, they weren't giving us as much time to spend with people. And I had all these things to teach them. I couldn't just teach them physical therapy. I wanted to teach them how to get rid of their stress. So I decided to write the book so they had something that they could read at their pleasure whenever they had time to think about something else they could do for themselves. And that's what I did, really, to kind of save myself from being stressed out, trying to teach everybody else not to be stressed out.
Yeah, that's awesome. And it's so true. There's so much that as experts that you can share with a patient, and when you have so little time, especially, you know, in an insurance-based environment, you got very little time.
Right.
You want to visit the doctor. I mean, you're lucky if you get more than 5 minutes with your physician to explain what's going on, and they just need to hear the symptoms so they can give you the medication or the right treatment or point you to the next best person to see. And really, there's a lot more going on inside.
Oh, a lot.
Yeah. So you mentioned to me before we were talking that you see a lot of headache people, a lot of TMJ people as well. And so I wanted to hear a bit more about your take on headaches and just explore that topic a bit more. So you mentioned it a bit here in the book. Tell me more.
Right. Well, you know, the interesting thing is nowadays everybody depends on medication. And medication really doesn't give the client participation in their own healing. So I feel that people have to take action to keep those headaches from coming back, to get rid of the stress. It's like, what's causing the headache? And if people say stress, well, there's more than stress. Yes, it's stress, but is there an issue? And I try to talk to all of my clients about specifics so they understand that maybe they don't even have to hold the stress. The stress isn't progressive in any way. And then I teach them how they can respond to it. And I teach them different techniques, physical techniques like pressure on acupuncture points, exercise. Definitely, I'm a big posture person. Posture helps everything heal. But I try and look at it from a very wide range structure. So we're not just doing exercise and we're not just doing manual. I'm also getting people to understand that somebody wants to help them. And it's very, very powerful. It's very powerful. And that they don't have to hold stress, and teach them ways. I mean, it's really interesting because sometimes the first 15 minutes I'm talking with somebody, I'm teaching them how to not hold stress before I even do their evaluation. So I'm teaching them how not to hold stress so they start to understand this makes a big difference.
Yeah, it makes a huge difference not to hold stress. It reminds me of when years ago, I went to the dentist and they told me that my molars were getting very worn down, and that for my age, my molars looked like they were 20 years older than what they should be. And the dentist asked me, "What do you do for a living?" I said, "I'm a physical therapist." And he says, "Are you like pushing on people and using your muscles, and do you lift weights?" And I said, "Yeah, a bit of both." He says, "Well, are you gritting your teeth like this?" And I said, "I don't know. No way." And he said, "Do you clench your jaw at night? Do you wake up with your jaw sore?" And I said, "No, I'm okay." The very next day, I found myself at 8:30 a.m. working on somebody's back, trying to do a technique. And I was clenching my jaw, and I realized, oh my gosh. And so I loosened my jaw actively after that. And I didn't realize that I had some tension going on in the back of my neck and head that also got better, but I didn't, because I wasn't aware of it. And I just attributed it to like stress, I guess, as so many doctors say to their patients, well, it must be just stress. But you know, the typical pathway for somebody dealing with headaches when they go to the doctor or migraines is, you know, they'll give them pain medications. Usually the patient's already tried over-the-counter pain medications. In extreme examples, they'll go into some treatments like maybe injections. What's an example of something that you talk about in your book, or maybe you do with your patients, that you can help with headaches?
Right. So the first thing I do is I evaluate their posture, because most people are sitting with their, you know, this type of a position. They're either on their computer or they're sitting in a bad couch at home. And when you're sitting like that, you're actually compressing the neck. Get my hair out of the way. You're compressing your neck, or your neck's really far forward. That's going to change not only your head angle, it's going to hurt through the eyes, it's going to get through the jaw, and it's going to compress the neck. So the first thing that I evaluate is their posture. And then I show them how to do exercises to improve their posture. I do manual releases on the posture. And then I start talking about, well, if I haven't done it before the eval, like I said before, how they're getting stress. So the minute you start to get stressed, you start to compress everything in your neck and your shoulders and your head, and then the pain cycle begins. So I really try to bring them all together and give them something they can do at home thought-wise, something they can do exercise-wise, and then how to change. And make them go home and look at their whole house. How do you do the dishes? How do you do the laundry? How do you sit in a chair? Because I want your posture to be good in order for your neck, head, back, whatever it is that's injured, to heal. And it can't if it's being compressed all the time.
Awesome. Yeah, those are fantastic tips. I've had so many people that I've coached them up on how they sit in the car and drive, how they sit at their computer. Of course, there's just slight, subtle differences. And one of the ones that I see the most is people are too overcorrected. Like,
right.
They know that they should have good posture, and their parents' voice lives in their head about them sitting up nice and tall. And I actually have to coach them to do the opposite. Tell them, you know what, you're too overcorrected. Slouch a bit. And immediately they're like, wow, I feel tension go away and this feels comfortable.
Right. I usually tell them to not correct by pulling their shoulders back, but to correct by tightening their abs, their core,
yep.
Because that'll lift everything instead of making it go forward. Yeah.
Yep. Awesome. Well, what's something somebody who's watching this right now might try at home? You were talking about some tension point stuff that you do. Can you tell us more about that?
Sure. Well, there's a few things that you can do at home that are very simple. And one of them is just to kind of get 2 tennis balls together and tape them and put them at the very back of the skull and lie on that at night. I mean, that doesn't take much effort. You just lie on it. But there's some really good acupuncture points, and they're right inside the eye. And what you can do is just take your fingertips, and there's a little bit of a notch between the nose and the eye. And you can even put your hands forward like on a table, but you just get a gentle pressure, but you want to get against near the bone. And then you just press until you feel a very gentle pressure there that you hold. And then I'd want you to just breathe slow and deep, like 5 seconds in, 5 seconds out. And you hold it for about 2 minutes. And you'll find as you hold it, that it's going deeper, and you might be feeling increased tension, but you're not pushing any harder. You're just holding it. What happens after you do this for about 2 minutes is you're opening up your skull. Most of us have worry lines that go right across, our brow, but you're lifting that. You're opening it up. Your vision can feel better after the 2 minutes, and your posture gets better because we're here. And when you start putting that pressure up, you're lifting everything up. You're releasing the tension. Most of the time, people don't even realize they're painful there. So with just doing like a 2-minute hold and breathing, yeah. So I'd like to turn your fingers out because you can kind of feel that spot a little bit better. There you go. Yeah. That
is a sensation for sure.
I had one patient that came in. He was big time. He owned a Mercedes car dealership, and he would get huge headaches. And so I would do this release for him, and he's like, dig in more, dig in more. And I said, I don't want to poke your eyeballs out. I mean, I'm really digging in deep. He loved it. And he said it was the only thing that got rid of his headaches.
Oh my gosh.
But I don't want most people to dig that deep, right? You only need a real gentle pressure that you feel, but it does release. And I do have many people that also say their eyes see brighter and they feel like their vision's a little bit improved too. So yeah, it's a great little spot. Yeah.
Awesome tip. If you're trying that at home right now, or you just tried it, or pause the video and try it if you're dealing with headaches, comment on the video below here and let us know how it went for you, please. Now, I love this book. There's so many different tips. Like they're not even all connected. I would say like they're
I
just.
know.
It's like a nice hodgepodge, a nice potluck, if you will, buffet of just so much great tips. One of the tips that I particularly enjoyed was I don't know if it was a tip. It was a story you shared. I think when you were in the Middle East and there was a pool that was just not well taken care of, to put it nicely.
Right.
And how you were talking about how you wanted to exercise, but you just couldn't get to swim like you wanted to, and then you just jumped in and started swimming. I love that because I'm going to be sharing that with my patients now, because I have so many patients that make excuses, or they tell me here in the clinic why I didn't do my exercises for this and that reason, and they're giving me their excuses. And my thought here is, well, this needs to be our priority, and if you're going to make this priority, you got to get over some things and carve out the time and just do it. And just like you jumped into the murky water, and I love how you reframed it. You said, I've swam in ponds before,
Right?
Than that, and
that's what it is. It was just algae.
Yeah, and then you get going.
And the nice thing about it was it really made the guys that were supposed to be in charge of the pool get the parts to fix it real fast. People thought, yeah, I'm weird. Okay. But it was so stressful over there. And as a woman, I had so much stress that I have to exercise. You can't go out by yourself. You can't do anything. So the pool or calisthenics was really my choices. And I love swimming for relaxation and de-stressing. And so I just did it.
Yeah. And this, like another tip that I'll share from the book, there's so much. I'm really just giving you like 2 tidbits. There was a section on time and how you were running late somewhere, and I think you said your commute was like 30 minutes and you left 15 minutes late, but somehow you just made it on time, even though there was normal traffic and everything. But what you flipped in yourself about it was that you just didn't worry. You just said, right, I'll get there when I get there. And
I gave it up. I just gave it up. And I said, I'll get there when I get there. And I couldn't believe when I drove in on time. I was like, this has never happened. And I just didn't worry about it.
And I love that.
You drive safer that way too.
Say it again.
You drive safer that way too.
Yeah. You take the risks that you might take if you're trying to rush.
Yeah.
I love that story for my patients as well, because I'm going to be sharing it with them, because I think many patients get a time frame put in their heads when they go to the doctor. If they just had a surgery or something, they say, well, you should be over this in 8 weeks or in 3 months or whatever the time frame is. And that's just not how it works out for everybody. That's like the average or whatever the studies showed. And some people take longer, and there's a small percentage that take a little bit of time.
Right. It's real funny. I had a patient come in today, and I'm treating her husband as well. And she's only been a couple times, and she goes, well, I'm not so good at my exercises, doing them at home. My husband's so good at that. And I said, right. And you're good at something else. And she's like, what? I'm like, well, he's good at that. He's kind of anal. You're good at being more relaxed than he is. He can't relax. I said, everybody's good at something. Don't judge yourself against what somebody else is doing. So you can just, again, breathe and relax a little bit. We're very judgmental against ourselves more than anybody else.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I love it. So guys, if you need to get this book, I strongly suggest you get it. I think this is good for whether you're dealing with a specific problem or not. This is just awesome life advice, awesome ways to deal with, if you're dealing with like a chronic pain problem, or if you have some unmet expectations about your health condition, this is the book to read and get through. And it's so easy to read. It's very conversational. When I got it, I was like, man, this is a thick book, but it just flows. You just kind of work through it. I put a bookmark here where I liked a certain section, but I read the whole thing cover to cover. It didn't take me more than a week. I really loved it. And that was, my spare time here and there. So the link to get this book is in the description below. You can find it on Amazon. And let me just put up on here Dorothy's website here, simplehealingpt.com. That's her website for everything. So you can get to her Scottsdale clinic there, the information about visiting her clinic. Of course, you can also learn more about her book there if you need to learn more information from Dorothy. Now, one question I have for you before we start wrapping up is, who's this book for? I'm giving my idea of who I think it's for, but who did you really write it for? Who's the person in mind that you had when you wrote this?
Right. I wrote it for that person that's kind of frustrated and ready to give up and thinks that they can't get better. So if you feel like you've done some things and you still have pain and you're just going to give up and think you have to live with it, it's wrong. You can get rid of pain. I've had people that have had pain for 10 or 15 years, and I work on them, teach them how to get rid of stress, and the pain is gone. So I really think it's for people that just have suffered for so long and just need a new approach and a little bit more energy to get in there and go for it again. It helps a lot post-COVID too, because of all the stress. People are getting a lot of pain with all the stress with COVID, and it's like it really helps people deal with that.
Yeah. Well, thanks so much for coming onto the channel here, Dorothy. I really appreciate you sharing your insight, your expertise, and most of all, your time. Thank you so much for sharing it with our viewers.
Yeah, I appreciate you having me. Thanks, David.
Yeah, of course. So I've put Dorothy's email address on there. She gave me permission to put that on there if you need to reach out to her. And here's her website. It's the same ending as her email. And like I said, she's in Scottsdale, Arizona. Her clinic is called Simple Healing Physical Therapy. And go check out the book so you can start getting some practical advice right away. Thanks so much for watching, guys, and we'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye.